remember about 10 minutes. And
yes.
The floor is yours.
Good morning. It is indeed a great pleasure to address 15th ASECU conference and summer school. It has been throughout the week an amazing experience, one that has filled us up with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of understanding in relation to different metrics, in relation to different data, in relation to different statistics that we might be using in order to better understand the contours of artificial intelligence. But in my closing remarks, I will be talking not about artificial intelligence. I will be talking about the prospects of going beyond artificial intelligence in order to build a better future that is worth trusting. And trusting, it's the key words that will represent the main aspects of my presentation. I start with a fundamental hypothesis which might become a thesis actually, that technology has never actually changed the world. Technology has always been there as something that humans, that people discover. Technology is an asset that lies ahead of us, that lies beyond us, but it is something that is being created by a human person. So the actual change in the world, it's something that comes not by technology, because technology is a human-made concept. It's a human-made understanding. It's a human-made prospect. And it is people, it is the humans that change the world. So if we want true change, if we want true difference in what we're doing, if we want to discover the actual truth, we need faith in ourselves. We need faith in our colleagues. We need faith in the ability of the human person to better understand what is going around the world. And every technological revolution asks humanity one question. And the question is not what we can build. With the advent of artificial intelligence and the advent of technological development, the human being is able to build more or less everything the human person wants. So the right question is not what we can build. We can build nearly everything. The right question is what we should be building. Because the ability is there. But when we add, and that's a key difference, a differentiating parameter from the word can or should, we should be building something that will be helpful, generous, and prospective for our world, for our generation, for our future generations, for the generations to follow. So the question should not be what we can build. It should be what we should be building. By using the technology that is available, by using the technology that we have discovered. And in order to address that kind of a hypothesis, we should be actually asking ourselves what should be the foundations of this kind of knowledge, of this kind of know-how that is being availed in front of us and ahead of us. And those foundations should be built upon those four fundamental pillars that you can see in the slide. And I will start with governance, which is the third pillar. You are economic, finance students, researchers, academics, and personally lawyer. So that would be quite weird for a lawyer to talk about numbers, to talk about metrics, to talk about data. But we can talk about governance. And a good marketeer, a good economist, a good statistician would be using governance mechanisms in order to address issues that derive from the use of technologies. Issues like the lack of transparency. Issues like hallucinations of LLMs. Issues like biases of algorithms. Because an algorithm is not something tangible. And when we're talking about intangible concepts, there's definitely a bias therein that we cannot control. Therefore, the issue of governance is of fundamental importance. Law. Throughout the week, in those excellent workshops, in those excellent presentations we had, we did touch upon the legal aspects of new technologies. We did touch upon, for example, the EU AI Acts, the limitations, the breakers that the legislation presents upon us. We did touch about issues of GDPR, the protection of fundamental principles and human rights, the protection of personal data that's inherent in any algorithmic conception. We did talk about guidelines by UNESCO. We did talk within the theme of the 15th ASECU conference and summer school about SDGs, about the sustainable development goals envisioned by the world's United Nations organization, an organization that is being built according to its own preamble upon the search for peace. And peace comes by trusting. That's the fourth pillar. By trusting your neighbor, by trusting the person sitting next to you, by trusting the world, and by trusting the value of a human being, by trusting the principles that guide us, by having faith in our trust that will guide us and lead us to the right questions, to the right path. And that leads us to the first pillar that I have listed there, ethics. Ethics derives from the Greek word ethos. Ethos is not only 4 or 5 letters. It's not a simple word. It's a context, it's a philosophy that each one of us should possess. Ethos is our character. Ethos is our behavior. Ethos is our intuition into discovering new things, not for our own sake, not towards the detriment of other people. But ethos, it's that kind of a characteristic that should be characterizing a human person that has an intuition, a recognition towards understanding others, towards inclusivity, towards respect for diversity, towards respecting the fundamental values, principles, and our rights as human persons. Therefore, ethics play a major role in understanding the evolution of new technologies, in understanding how we use methods of artificial intelligence and understanding what should be our path steadily towards the better promotion, protection, and respect of the human person. And therefore, when we address the delimitations or when we try to delineate what artificial intelligence can do for us, we can obviously see that artificial intelligence can help us tackle issues like the climate change, can help us tackle issues that we face in our businesses, issues that we face in our lives, issues that we face in our education. We do use artificial intelligence to guide us, to help us in producing education, in producing knowledge. We do use artificial intelligence in medicine. I mean, the discoveries that are happening and are taking place by artificial intelligence in the field of medicine are immense. The prospects of artificial intelligence in medicine are more immense than they are. We were at the University of Jeju yesterday, the main campus that is hosting us and is hosting this excellent conference. And we have seen how nanotechnology can help us. We have seen how semiconductors are changing our lives. We have seen how infrared technologies can be used in order to identify dyslexia, for example, at the very early stages. We have seen how infrared goggles or glasses can help us detect anomalies that might exist and help us train and help us improve in our daily lives and activities, either as pilots, business managers, business executives, managers, statisticians, economists, and so on. So artificial intelligence can also help in the government sector, can also help in administering justice. But then the question remains, who decides? Is it what we call en français, the noir boîte, the black box, that we know what the input is, because it's the human person that inputs the data, and we know what the output is, because that's a tangible result. We can see it, we can read it, we can feel it. But the problem in that equation is that we don't know what is happening from the process of inputting data to the process of output data. That process of thinking, that process of decision making, is a black box. And within that black box, since we don't know the synergies that take place in that decision making process, there is an issue. There is a possibility of bias. There is a possibility of injustice. There is a possibility of unfairness. And those are issues that should be of our concern. Therefore, there is that dichotomy between artificial intelligence and human wisdom. Artificial intelligence is excellent. Artificial intelligence is the greatest discovery that the human person has made after fire. If you remember back in ancient Greek mythology, there was Prometheus who had stolen fire from Zeus, and then Zeus punished Prometheus by giving him a present of the Pandora's box, a closed box, whereby the advice was, do not open. It was a black box. It was the first AI black box of humanity, of human history. And what happened at that time? They opened Pandora's box. And out of Pandora's box, a lot of good things came out, but a lot of bad things came out as well. And only at the bottom of that box, hope remains. It was the only thing that was not taken outside that box. But the fire and the technology that came out first transformed our world, transformed our path towards the evolution of humankind. But nevertheless, it was the person at the center of it. It was like when we had an earlier presentation at the very beginning, at the very early stages of this conference, when we talked about Copernicus, that said, well, the earth is not flat. And the earth goes around the sun. And at that center of that universe should be the human person. So intelligence generates answers, but human wisdom chooses which answers matter, which questions should be made, and which answers should be used for the benefit of humankind. Therefore, the greatest challenge nowadays is not technological. We already have achieved everything, nearly everything. I don't want to sound absolute of what we can do with technology. The prospect is there. The water already goes towards the abyssness of the sea, towards the depths of the oceans. We are able to discover everything, or nearly everything, of what we want. But the challenge, bear in mind that it's not technological, it's human. And again, when we're talking about the black box, we should be talking about human in the loop. The manager who will examine the data. The statistician who will make sure that the numbers make sense. The person who will evaluate the metrics. The manager and the politician who will implement the output of that black box. And when we are talking about humans, that's a huge, huge challenge. Because humans are humans. Humans are greedy. Humans can be disrespectful. Humans do not appreciate, most of the times, anything that goes outside their ego. Humans have ethos, but they also have the opposite of ethos. When we're talking about ethics and ethical decisions, humans are also characterized by unethical actions. And that's the challenge. Technology is not the challenge. The algorithm is not the enemy within the room. Within the room, the enemy and the greatest challenge is ourselves, is the human. And in order to address and at least understand what lies ahead, we need to build a system of governance, a system of artificial intelligence understanding based on rigid, solid, fundamental principles that adhere. Principles that are based on justice, integrity, responsibility, humanity, wisdom. Therefore, the decision, and I'm concluding, is ours. The future is ours. It is a future worth going the extra step, taking the extra leap in order to reach that peak of the mountain where hope lies, where faith is, where the benefits of that Pandora's box are. And technology will keep evolving, it will keep constantly being an evolutionary nature. Actually, nowadays, we're in the embryonic stages of artificial intelligence. Great things will definitely come. But in that respect, we need to base our decisions, our choices based on our choices, our decision, because the journey will continue. And I'm concluding with two very brief final things. The deputy director of Eurostat a couple of days ago mentioned a very famous quote by Albert Camus, a very famous French writer. And he said that, Camus, truth needs witnesses. And that statement comes from a very famous series of essays by Camus, which is Resistance, Rebellion, and Death. There's only one thing that's certain in our lives, and that's death. We all going to die despite the advent of technologies, despite the advent of artificial intelligence and so on. But let us die, I wish, in a noble way, in a way that will show resilience by resisting to temporary benefits, by resisting to our inner ethos, which is not ethical, by resisting to the challenges that will be detrimental for ourselves, for our humankind. Let us be rebels in addressing those challenges. Let us rise up to the challenges that lie ahead in a humane way. Because artificial intelligence now generates knowledge, and we need to be looking for the truth. So let us choose wisely. Thank you very much for your attention.